Hello, my name is Claire Grace and I'm a printed textile designer based at West Yorkshire Print Workshop in Mirfield. I've always loved patterned and colourful fabrics and when I start to design my fabrics, I very often use natural forms as an inspiration, usually looking at flowers and plants, and I love to draw them. So that's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to draw some flowers and some plants using sticks and twigs and leaves, things that you might find out in your garden or in the park or out on a walk, and also using coffee as an ink. And you're going to draw flowers and plants, and then I'm going to take those drawings and put them onto screen and actually print them onto fabric. And if it's okay, we don't know how COVID's going to go, but if it's okay, you may have a chance to come and actually print them onto fabric with me, which would be really lovely. So everything that we're going to use is natural. When we print, we're actually going to use natural dyes. These are dried natural dye flowers that will actually make the dyes that we will print with. So that's a dye is chamomile, and we've even got onion skins. They make a good natural dye as well. So that's the aim, to produce some beautiful floral drawings, which then will be made into textile prints using everything that is natural. Okay. Right, we're going to make the ink that we're going to use to make the drawings. All you have to do is put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 large teaspoons into a jar like that, and then just run some warm water in. Or only put the warm water in just about 2 centimetres up the jar. Okay, it goes all frothy. Just give it a good mix. The nice thing about this is you don't need to use boiling water. You don't need to have a kettle. As long as your water is warm coming out of the tap, then you'll have a nice ink to use. Okay. If you find, because it might depend what coffee you use, if you find that it's a little bit thin when you put the colour down, maybe you might put a few more spoons in and just mix it in. So you can see we want it quite strong, so when we make a nice drawing it's going to make some good lines. Okay. I've been in the garden and I've collected lots of things that we can make some drawing tools with. So I'm going to show you how you can make some tools and things that you might want to look for. Just a simple twig stem can actually make a really good drawing implement. All you need to do is maybe cut it into it at an angle, okay, and it looks like a pen already. And you can see it makes a really lovely line. And you can draw with that. I'll show you some drawing a bit later on. This is just experiment with what you can make. This is an echinacea, and when I take the seeds away, look, it looks like a pen again. So you can experiment, have a look and see if you can find some seed heads, and they may already look fantastic to draw with. And again, that makes another mark, another line. Look, it's thinner than that other line as well. But it may also make some nice mark making as well. So you can play with making marks with it and using it in different ways. And you can hold them in different ways as well. Now, what if I hold it like that and make a mark? So have a little play when you've made your drawing tools to see what happens with them. The other thing you can do is you can get another stem and you can actually make something which is a bit more like a brush. So you can attach some things. This is a little bit of grass. And you can attach things onto the stick, maybe using a little bit of paper tape like that, or you can use some masking tape. I'll use some paper tape. And all you have to do is you can actually tie it on with thread as well, but it's a little bit more fiddly tying with thread. I think it's a little bit easier to do it with some tape. Try and make it as firm as you possibly can. And then you may find there's some little bits that stick out, so you just trim them off like that. And you've made an interesting brush. That was hanging down a touch. It's just grasses that I've put together on an echinacea stem. And I'm going to just put that in and let's see what we get. Ooh. Sometimes you don't get what you think you're going to get. That's why it's interesting to just have a little play. And don't worry if it gets a bit messy or flicky. Sometimes flicky marks are quite nice. Okay. But again, you can always trim down. You can always think, well, I didn't like that one. What if I trim it right the way down and I don't have any little bits coming off it? And what do I get when I do that? Okay. Again, it's making lines. But if you can imagine you've got something with lots of lines on it and it's making some nice little flicky shapes. Say a nice petal, yeah, it's got lots of veins on it, then you can actually make the petals look like that. Okay. There we are. Right, I'm going to start drawing now. One thing that you might want to think about is that you can do drawings on an A4 sheet of paper and you can do some drawings on an A3 sheet of paper. And that will mean that your scale will change. So sometimes your flowers can be really big and your other flowers may be fairly smaller. You know, they'll be smaller if they're on an A4 to an A3. So make use of the paper that you've got. So if you're doing on A3, yeah, don't be afraid to go nice and big. And I'm just going to start off. Now with this, don't be afraid of making any mistakes because it doesn't matter. It's about you looking at what you're seeing. And it's interesting that what you're using as a tool, because it's a natural tool, is sometimes that tool doesn't quite do what you expect it to do. And that's really nice because it gives you some lovely qualities. And the other thing to do is to really look carefully at the forms, as I say. So anything that looks quite, what you're picking out is, they have got little jagged edges at the top. If you can do some where you've got jagged edges, that would be wonderful. And the shape of the flower, the petal is sort of square at the ends. So that might be quite nice for you to really look carefully and think about those forms and those little subtle differences that you see from the petals. And each petal is different and each petal has its own little personality. And I'm trying to, can you see how I tried to get that edge there where it just sort of gets jagged? I'm trying to get that. And I also think, I'm thinking about the idea of the petals in the centre. Whoops, I've did a big blob there. It doesn't matter. Blobs are fine. Just try and see if you can make the blob part of the work. Because you will get blobs, and I quite like the look of blobs. But just keep working through, yeah, and you'll have a lovely drawing. And sometimes the edge goes nice and thin, which I quite like. That can be left. As long as it's got some definition, because when I come to use these drawings to make into screen prints, I do need to have some strength of line and strength of colour. So as long as it's got plenty of colour in there, I'll be able to use that. Okay, and there we are. We've got a marigold, and what I'd like to do is I want to try and see if I can get its little... Ooh, wow, look at that. I wasn't planning that. That just happened. I've got double, and it's made the stem for me. Okay, and then I can see how really think about how things are connected. How does the leaf connect? Oh, it's done it again for me, and that's fine. I'll just keep trying to shift it. If it suddenly does something that you're not expecting, sometimes it can be good, and other times you might want to just control it again. Okay, so I just pulled it back and twisted it round. Even holding it in a different way can give you a different mark. But I think these little marks where you're not totally in control, I think have a really lovely character to them already, and I think that's fantastic. So it will give you something of the plant somehow. If you're looking carefully enough, you'll get a nice quality. I'm liking that. Okay, there we are. Now you can use different tools on the same drawing as well to get different effects and different marks. So I'm wanting some little lines on the petals, so I'm just using a piece of sort of thick ornamental grass stem that I've got. And think about how you maybe move the tool down. Sometimes it's nice just to drag it rather than just, can you see I'm holding it quite loose,
and I'm just dragging it across. And sometimes you might just drag along what's already laying on the surface. The ink that's already laying on the surface can be used. Okay, just dip into that. The other thing you'll notice is the coffee lays on the surface quite a bit, so make sure you're very careful that you don't smudge it and that you let it dry nicely before you start to take it anywhere. Okay, I think I'm quite happy with that. I don't want to overdo it, but the lines give a feeling a little bit of the tone of the flowers, but also it's about the lines that are on the surface of the petals that I wanted to show. When I do, don't be afraid as well to keep doing the same plant, keep doing the same flower, keep doing lots of drawings, and you can then get to know it a little bit more, and you can start to maybe draw different aspects of that flower, because I'm just thinking about the centre. I could do another drawing now and get the centre quite jagged and strong and textured. I'm just drawing the allium. Can you see how I'm filling an A3 sheet of paper? So making it nice and big. So maybe you can do some flowers where they really do fill the page like that. So we get some large scale drawings. And then I just wanted to show you that, again, I'm using this thin piece of grass to do the lines, because some of these are very elegant, very thin. But I've also used another tool to do some lines as well. So I've got some thicker lines and some thinner lines on, so that I can get it looks like some things are a bit closer to and some things are further away, so I can get different lines with different tools. So don't be afraid to experiment with that. Just having a look at these as well, and so I'm now going to, just where the seed heads are, just going to see what they look like and sort of think about how they're formed. And then you've got this nice like little bell, almost like a little bell flower at the top there. And so that's what I can do. I can then put, and if I want to try, I might even get some thickness into them. Okay, just keep having to get some more coffee on. Okay, but don't be afraid I keep saying that, don't be afraid, but it's true. You just have to enjoy this and just don't be afraid of experimenting and seeing what you can do with the coffee. Okay, so now I need to have a look at where these flowers are falling, and I need to add those then onto the allium. I think that's going to be a lovely drawing. But the other thing that I want you to look at is about pattern making, looking for the patterns and the shapes and the forms in the flowers. Some of them have got little seeds inside. Can you see little black seeds? So I'm going to put some with little black seeds into them as well. They're like little stars. They are like a firework, aren't they?